Hey everyone, my name is Victor Guerra, who goes by Victortheinspiration on social media. I am a recently published author of a book called Become the Victor, Turning Trials into Triumph. In addition, I also have my own podcast called Become the Victor Podcast that is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music as well, where I have interviewed best-selling authors, Guinness World Record holders, serial entrepreneurs who have generated $250 million for their clients alone, amongst with so many other extraordinary and remarkable people as well. I have grew up here at Valley Children's Hospital. So Valley Children's Hospital is a very sentimental and surreal moment to be here, as again I grew up here. So to go from growing up in Valley Children's Hospital and growing up living in the MDA clinic has been such a surreal and exciting moment. As soon as I got here, I had to immediately, it was a moment of nostalgic where I had to drive behind this entire hospital, because this here, if you guys have been here, has been nothing but grass. So it's been very surreal to see the improvements with the playground, in addition to seeing how much has innovated over the course of my life since I've been here. I currently am 27 years old, and my life has been anything but ordinary. I personally have SMA Type 2, which is a progressive neuromuscular medical condition that slowly takes away your ability to walk, eat, and breathe over time. So I have grown up and have my entire life knowing what it is like to do something one day to the next, not being able to do it. So to give you guys a visual understanding, is at the age of 5 years old, I was able to push myself in a manual wheelchair because I had the physical strength to do so. To fast forward a decade, which is at the age of 15 years old, I no longer had the physical strength to push myself because my disability had progressed, where I now needed a powerized wheelchair. To fast forward to this day present time, which is 12 years later, I'm currently 27 years old. I, although still am in a powerized wheelchair, but now I'm starting to struggle with eating, and my neck support has become the two that I have been most familiar with as of recently. And growing up I had a very ordinary life. I never had anything where growing up, I never felt different, and I'm very appreciative for the family and the support that I had, where my cousins would always treat me like any ordinary cousin in terms of, hey, let's go outside and play hide and seek or play around. And even if their houses, when I would attend family events and parties, they always made it a point to accommodate my needs in any way possible. It's been such a surreal moment to grow up and be here for as long as I have. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Rachel. It's been such a surreal moment growing up and being here. And me, so a little bit about my story is, I grew up I was diagnosed at 2.5 years old with SMA Type 2. And I even have experienced dozens and dozens of back surgeries just within my back alone, having a spinal infusion, where unfortunately it didn't go too successful, where shortly after I now needed a spinal debridement. So for those of you that don't know what that is, a spinal infusion is, I had developed severe scoliosis over the course of my life, which is curvature of the spine. So it became a health concern because I was questioning my organs. I ended up catching a severe infection where I now needed a spinal debridement. So they initially put in metal rods into my spine, where shortly after they had to remove those metal rods because, again, I had caught a severe infection. Because of that severe infection, it brought me to have not one, not two, but dozens upon dozens upon dozens of back surgery experiences just within my back alone. Fast forward is I ended up, because of that extensive recovery process, I now needed to be on home studies for my 5th and 6th grade years. So at the age of 11 was when my whole back surgery experience happened. Now, after junior high school, I somehow managed to give myself a concussion by me being a typical boy. I ended up flipping my wheelchair in the back of during recess, which has been such a surreal and interesting experience. I was able to make that happen. But if anyone was going to make it happen, it definitely would be me. Fast forward to me going into high school. My high school experience was an amazing and phenomenal experience. As much as me attending those 4 years, and I pursued and received my high school diploma, during those 4 years, about roughly 50 to 60% of my entire high school experience, I was always in and out of the hospital, being here at Valley Children's Hospital 6 months out of the year, because I was always having pneumonia, collapsed lungs, where I would be in regular administration, sometimes would even be in the ICU dozens of times. shortly after during that experience, I even actually was in the ICU for my high school experience. And by the grace of God, I had the opportunity to have Valley Children's Hospital make it possible for me to attend my high school graduation experience, where they actually found it a way and made it a point to make the impossible possible, where they actually gave me the opportunity to have my entire medical team of nurses, respiratory therapists, amongst every other medical personnel that I needed, just so I could attend my high school graduation ceremony. After that, me being me, I ended up pursuing the traditional path for college, attending community college in business administration. I've always been fascinated with innovation. I've always been fascinated with numbers. I've always been extremely fascinated with building things, turning nothing into something. And I ended up attending community college, and as soon as I went there, I wasn't being pessimistic, but I went up to all of my teachers and professors the first week I was there, and I told them, hey, within this upcoming season, I might end up in the hospital. Now, when that happens, what can I do? Can I have my twin sister, who also is attending here, can she pick up my work, and I can do it here in the hospital? And they all said the same thing, which is, you will cross that bridge when you cross it. So, shortly enough, we did end up crossing that road. Literally a week to 2 weeks roughly before my first semester was over of college, ended up unfortunately having pneumonia and collapsed lungs, being in the hospital. I emailed all of my professors, and to cut everything short, they all said, I'm sorry, but you are going to have to repeat the next semester, and that is if the classes are available. So me being optimistic, I told myself, well, I'll just do online classes my second semester. Little did I know what that would have been like. I personally am a visual learner, so if I had a question, I like to raise my hand and ask a question. Hey, can you help clarify, to help me interpret what it is you were trying to teach me? I didn't have that luxury on online classes because everything was through email. I attended my second semester for about a month. After the month, I went up to my mom and I said, hey, what do you think about if I drop out? It personally was not me. And I gracefully had her support, where she said, son, it doesn't matter what you do, I just want you to figure out and do something. So about a month goes by and I'm in my room and I'm just playing games. I'm in my chair playing games and I have no sense of direction whatsoever. Me being me, I began asking myself these questions. You aspire to do these things, certain things, and yet what is it that you're doing that you are trying to make it happen? And the answer was nothing. So I ended up doing my diligence that night for several hours and doing extensive research. What can I do while being in a wheelchair, while living with a progressive disability? I came across a business model called e-commerce, where I ended up buying a course, coming across a business model called e-commerce, where I essentially sell products, learn advertisements, build websites, and have dealt with suppliers both internationally and domestically within the country. So I dealt with suppliers both in the country and outside of the country. And that has been a surreal and exciting moment. As much as that business venture has been a failure and I wasn't able to get it off the ground, it somehow led me into YouTube, where I then started to document my stories, started to talk about my process. And little did I know that me entering entrepreneurship in 2018, to fast forward into the year 2026, I now am a published author of a book called Become the Victor, Turning Trials into Triumph, which is my own personal journey of me documenting my entire thoughts and process of my life about certain glimpses of what it is that I have been through, from navigating life with SMA, navigating depression, navigating anxiety, navigating grief when I lost my grandmother and my aunt. I ended up just journaling my thoughts. My intention was never to write a book. It was simply just journaling my thoughts. Little voice in the back of my head, to be transparent for the mental health community, it's not an actual voice. It's the little voice that we call a thought. The little thing whispered and said, hey, why don't you think about writing a book? And this is December 2024. I ended up pursuing and started entertaining that thought a little bit, where I ended up having material right there in front of me. I submitted my work to these publication companies, where they distributed my book, my work, my material to hundreds, if not thousands, of publication companies within the country. Within 24 hours, I got picked up by the biggest faith-based publishing company here in the country. Within 24 hours, they wanted to book a phone call. Within 72 hours from me submitting that work, I got another phone call of another interest where these guys wanted to book another phone call, which is the biggest publication company that is not niche-based, which is a much more broader publication company, within 72 hours. And I ended up talking to both and negotiating and wanted to hear the thoughts about what it is that I can do. Next, fast forward to everything, in March 31st of 2025, I became an author. January 16th of 2026, which is this year, I became a published author, where it is available at Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, iTunes, and Google Play Books. In addition, I also have an audiobook version in the works that will sometime be announced within these upcoming, hopefully a few weeks, maybe the month of July. Fast forward to now, what I currently am doing. So I'm a published author. Little did I know how many opportunities it would begin to present itself to me. I ended up starting my own podcast, Become the Victor, where I essentially interview people who have turned any form of a trial into a triumph, any form of a test into a testimony. So the one thing all of us have in common is we all have a story, but many of us somehow and sometimes get stuck within that story. So I got inspired to start this project because I don't want people just to hear stories of what someone has been through, but hear stories of people who has been through something and overcame it. To me, that's a real inspiration and empowerment comes from. That's where all of that transpires. I would not be here if it wasn't for people sharing their stories, if it wasn't for them giving me the words of encouragement I needed in times that I needed it the most. So Become the Victor just became available on YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, in addition to Spotify as well. It is available and distributed everywhere. So far, the guests that I have interviewed are best-selling authors, serial entrepreneurs that have generated a $250 million just for their clients alone. I recently recorded a upcoming pop artist who is a phenomenal and extraordinary, and her episode will be coming out. If any of you guys, more so the kids, will probably be more so interested in this, is if any of you guys know a creator called Mr. Beast. He has a show called Beast Games, and I have interviewed several of their contestants that competed on Beast Games Season 2, who too have amazing stories within itself. So it's been such a surreal moment, and I am so incredibly grateful to have run into Angela when we did in December, because Angela here, when she ended up coming across me, and she was like, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "Yes." And I remember the face, but I couldn't pinpoint if she was my nurse or exactly where it was that I knew her from. I was like, "You were my respiratory therapist or my nurse?" And she said, "No, I worked with you at the MDA clinic." We ended up exchanging information, and she said, "Hey, we have an event coming up. I don't know when, but when we do, I would love to have you as our guest speaker." When she told me that, I said, "That would be amazing. I actually have a book coming out in January that I kept hush-hush for the longest time until it was concrete and permanent. And by the grace of God, she gave me this opportunity to be here in front of all of you guys, share my book, and everyone too as well has seen my stand over here. Is an MDA organization has donated and bought 50 books. That is, it's all donated. In addition, my mother and I also donated an additional 50 books for the event as well. So if anyone is interested in a book, bookmarks, bracelets, anything you see on underneath my tent over here, you guys can see that. And one thing I also want to highlight, which is pretty surreal, is if any of you guys are familiar with the show called Shark Tank, and if you guys are familiar with Damon John from Shark Tank, he is hosting a national competition called Entrepreneur of Impact, and I happen to be selected to compete amongst thousands of serial entrepreneurs. And I currently just found out that I made it to the top 5, and I made it to the top 5. Next Thursday, I will find out if I am the finalist within my group, and if I happen to make it through the finalist, which I will find out next Thursday, by the first week of May, which should be May 7th, if I'm correct, which would be that Thursday, the first week of May, I will find out if I win. So what I am competing for is $25,000 cash, one-on-one mentorship by Damon John himself, in addition to being featured on Entrepreneurial magazine. Now to me, that wouldn't just open up doors, but it would help me spread my message and reach the people that oftentimes many people look towards that become and feel unreachable. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I'm so grateful for the family, the support, the friends, the acquaintances I have developed over the course of my life, and to be here speaking in front of Valley Children's Hospital and to be speaking at an event for MDA. It's such a surreal and remarkable moment for me. I thank you guys for your time, your patience with me. This is my first speech, by the way. I've spoken in front of people before. I'm so grateful for this. And I always end my messages with this, which is I love you guys, I appreciate you guys, and as always, remember to grow through what you go through.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
nice.
baby.
That's nice, son.
And also, too, all the books and everything that is underneath the table, we have so much